Out of the 4 first-round games, this may be the closest and the best. It's the 8-9 matchup in the college football playoff. Number 9 Tennessee traveling to Columbus to take on number 8 Ohio State. And while every playoff game has massive stakes, this one may be the biggest. You've got Tennessee finally making the college football playoff thanks to the 12-team expansion under Josh Heupel. And you've got Ohio State, who is a regular playoff contender, but desperately needs to make a run this year. The seat is on fire for Ryan Day. He's had a phenomenal season with the Buckeyes, but another loss to Michigan cost them a spot in the Big Ten championship game, maybe cost them a spot at a bye in this playoff. If they lose at home to the Volunteers, people are going to go crazy. So this game on Saturday night is going to be awesome. And today we're going to break down who exactly is going to win and advance to take on the number 1 seed Oregon in the next round. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That, of course, includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks, home to our holiday special, which gives you every single bowl game spread pick and the rest of the NFL season spread picks. Rest of the regular season, rest of the playoffs, all those spread picks at your disposal for one of the lowest prices in the country. And it should be noted, we have never had a season under 60% when it comes to postseason picks. So always some of the best in the entire country for one of the lowest prices in the country. We want you to take advantage of that and sign up today. The link for it down in the description below, as well as everything else that you need to become a member of our GE Nation. So let's go ahead and get into this. Tennessee, Ohio State, a very, very intriguing game on Saturday night. I'll start with Tennessee on the offensive side of the ball, where it's no surprise, it's no shock that Tennessee is good offensively. They have been phenomenal offensively, but can they be good enough against this very stout Ohio State defense, which we will touch on later in this video. But Tennessee, they come in here 8th overall in the nation in total offense, averaging over 460 yards per game. They're 9th in the nation in rushing offense, averaging over 230 rushing yards per game. Dylan Sampson has been outrageous, over 1,400 yards, nearly 1,500, 22 touchdowns on the year, just Sampson alone. But I will say this, the offense has really slowed down a little bit as the season has progressed. You remember back at the beginning of the year where Tennessee was just torching these teams. And granted, it was like Chattanooga and some other junk teams like that. Their best win during that opening stretch was NC State, and they brought like 50 on them. So everybody's saying, oh my God, they scored over 50 points, at least 50 points in each of their first 3 games. They're going to be unstoppable. Well, then after that, their final 9 games, they eclipsed the 30-point mark just 3 times, and one of those was against UTEP. So that means that in conference play, in SEC conference play, Tennessee's offense only eclipsed 30 points twice, and that was against Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. That's it. Mississippi State, one of the worst teams in the conference. Vanderbilt certainly improving, but still no powerhouse. So it's a bit of a concern, right? They have a great rushing offense, but it definitely, everything slowed down quite a bit as the season progressed. Another concern that I have for Tennessee is how they have fared on the road this season. They haven't had many true road games. Their true road games were Oklahoma, Arkansas, Georgia, and Vanderbilt. Should be noted, they did lose 2 of those games. They lost to Arkansas and only mustered 14 points. They lost to Georgia and only mustered 17 points. You've got to find a way for Nico Iamaleava to show up and help this team get points on the board on the road. They mustered 25 against Oklahoma, 14 Arkansas, 17 Georgia, and a little over 30 against Vanderbilt after trailing, 17-7 early on in that game. Nico's got to find a way to step up. He's thrown for over 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Those aren't bad numbers, but he only has 3 games where he's thrown for at least 250 yards. He has 7 games where he's been held to under 200 yards. That includes the road games at Oklahoma, at Arkansas, and at Georgia. And people are going to say, well, the reason he has such low numbers is because of how great the running game is. And to an extent, that is true. Why would you air it out all the time if your running game is as good as it's been? And why would you do it when you've got a guy like Dylan Sampson at your disposal? I get that. But you're not going to be able to just run it by yourself in Columbus, in the Horseshoe, at night, in the cold, against this Ohio State defense. It's not going to happen. You cannot be one-dimensional on the road like this and expect to win this game. Nico Iamaleava has to step up, and he has looked nothing like he did in those first 3 games over the course of the rest of the season. So that's the key that I'm watching out for over the next couple days. Obviously, what we're going to be watching out for on Saturday night. Ohio State, they have struggled offensively too. We're not bashing Tennessee and going to praise the Buckeyes here. They're 36th in the nation offensively. That's a low mark considering how much money they poured in to this team, how much money they poured in, especially to this offense. They went out and got Will Howard. They went out and got Quinshon Judkins. They had some great wide receivers, and yet they're only mustering 423 yards per game. They're averaging over 250 passing yards per game. They're averaging 169 on the ground. Those aren't bad numbers. But Will Howard, I think many Ohio State fans will probably tell you, has not lived up to the expectations set before him. He had a pretty decent run at Kansas State. Everybody thought he'd do great at Ohio State, and that hasn't been the case. Over 2,800 yards, 27 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. Not bad numbers, but only 4 games where he has thrown for over 250 yards. And in his last outing against Michigan, kind of left a sour taste in everybody's mouth. Only 175 yards, 1 touchdown, and 2 costly interceptions against the Wolverines in that massive upset loss, again, at home. The thing that's interesting to me is Ohio State really hasn't taken many shots downfield. This is not a team. This is a team that has the ability to be explosive. This is a team that has the ability to put a lot of points on people. This is the ability to create a lot of big plays, and Will Howard really isn't taking them, whether that's by design or whether that's because of him. But you've got 2 great wide receivers, and Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, that are looking to get some big-time plays. Throw it up there and let them get it, and they're really not doing that. Will maybe that change on Saturday? Will we see a philosophical change in the offense from Ohio State on Saturday, knowing that their backs are against the wall and the season is on the line on Saturday night? You've got Quinshon Judkins, as we mentioned. He's rushed for over 800 yards and 8 touchdowns, maybe low numbers, all things considered there. But more than anything, for Ohio State offensively in this game, they have to start fast. So they have struggled a little bit offensively. They're still putting up a lot of points. They're still a very good football team. There's no denying that. But if you take a little bit of a deeper look here, you've got to find a way to get this crowd excited, get Tennessee kind of playing on their heels a little bit. You've got to find a way to do that early. Start fast, start aggressive. And the numbers do not favor them in that area. If you look at Ohio State, they have not scored a first quarter touchdown. They have not scored a first quarter touchdown since November 9th against Purdue. So it has been 4 games, pretty much a month. A month has gone by where Ohio State has failed to put a touchdown on the board in the first quarter. A slow start will not work on Saturday night against Tennessee, especially when you look at the Volunteers' defense. Both these defenses are phenomenal. Tennessee's got the 4th ranked defense in the country at 278 yards per game. That's all they're allowing. They're allowing 178 passing yards per game, less than 100 rushing yards per game. That ranks 8th in the entire nation. That's extremely, extremely impressive. No doubt about that. They have forced 20 turnovers. Opponents are converting on just 29.5% of third downs against this Tennessee defense. They're allowing just 13.9 points per game. They've allowed over 20 points 2 times this year. They've allowed over 20 points twice this year. 31 points to Georgia, 23 points to Vanderbilt. Every other team has been held to 20 points or less. That's insane. That's extremely impressive, especially in the world of the SEC. Even in their loss to Arkansas, the Razorbacks only had 19. They beat Alabama, and they held the Crimson Tide to, 17 points? They are playing very, very good football. Kind of a bend but don't break defense. But if you want to take a deeper dive into what maybe there's a weakness, if there is one for Tennessee, it's going to be their secondary. And their 2 losses to Arkansas and Georgia, they got torched by the passing game. They allowed 297 passing yards to Arkansas. They allowed 346 passing yards to Georgia. They allowed over 400 yards of offense to both of those teams in those 2 road losses. So they have to find a way to make sure that Will Howard doesn't all of a sudden have an awakening, doesn't wake up and torch this secondary that has not fared well on the road this year. If you're Tennessee and you're coming on the road in this hostile of an environment, you know the keys are to stop the pass, because I really do have a lot of faith in their running defense. Stop the pass, create turnovers. Got to create turnovers if you want to win on the road, and create negative plays. And that doesn't mean just turnovers. That means get pressure on Will Howard. That means get him behind the sticks, get him behind the chains. That's what you've got to be doing if you're Tennessee on Saturday night. Force Will Howard to win the game by himself through the air, and don't let him torch you just like you got torched in Fayetteville and Athens. Ohio State, on the other hand, they've got the number 1 defense in the nation. So the number 1 defense in the country versus the number 4 defense in the country, and a very, very cold night. This could be a very low-scoring game. But Ohio State giving up just 241 yards per game. They are second in the nation against the pass, allowing just 144 passing yards per game. And like Tennessee, they are stout against the run, allowing just 96.8 rushing yards per game. Although their last outing, the last game they played against Michigan, they were torched against the Wolverines, allowing 172 rushing yards in that game, ultimately losing that game. And that's the bottom line here. Tennessee's strength is running the ball. So if Ohio State allows them to run wild, they're going to lose this game. If you are Ohio State, you have to stop the run. You have to stop Dylan Sampson. You have to stop Tennessee's ground game and say, Nico Iamaleava beat us through the air. You have to come into our house and have an amazing game. A game that we really haven't seen him have pretty much all year, or at least since like one of the first 3 games of the year where they had some cupcake games on their schedule. So that's what you got to do if you're Ohio State. Force Nico to deliver. Can he handle this road environment? He really hasn't done that well on the road all year long. Can he handle the cold? Can he handle the number 1 defense in the country and the second-ranked defense against the pass? If Ohio State shuts down the run, does not allow Tennessee to run like Michigan did, they're going to win this game. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Look, this game is going to be close. This was a tough game for me to pick. I think it was for a lot of people out there as well. But I'm leaning Ohio State's way. The back is against the wall. They've had a lot of time to dwell on that Michigan loss. Maybe that's going to be bad. Maybe that's going to be good. I'm going to go with the good side. I think Ryan Day has his team ready to go. And I just don't think, after what I've seen from Tennessee on the road this year, I don't think they have what it takes to come into the Horseshoe and one of the biggest games of the year with this type of weather environment and beat Ohio State. The Buckeyes defense shows up and shows out. So does Tennessee. It's a low-scoring game. But at the end of the day, which team do I believe can make the play when it matters the most? It's going to be the Buckeyes, who have been one of the best teams in the year all year long. Give me Ohio State to win this game. It's low scoring. Will Howard actually shows up a little bit. I'm not saying he throws for 300, but he outplays Nico Iamaleava. Ohio State's defense comes through clutch late in the game, and the Buckeyes advance, kind of get the pressure off a little bit. They advance to the college football playoff quarterfinals, where they will get a rematch against Oregon at the Rose Bowl. And it could not be any better than that. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes, of course, our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those expert picks and that holiday special. The link to that, again, down in the description below. Become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.